Okay, 6 in the slow motion one, go to 81 black.
3, 2, 1, let go.
That's right, baby. It's the big show. Welcome to Super Beard Bowl, the show where you vote and then the patrons vote. And at the end, we make 8 episodes of monthly mayhem. The next public vote is currently on your screen at home. But this month, it's Jirard Khalil in How Famous is Jirard? And it all starts right now. This month on Super Beard Bowl 5.
Hello everyone, and welcome once again back to this special limited run series that I still, no matter how many times I do this show, I hate what it's called. It's called How Famous is Jirard, and that just feels so disingenuous to say because it's such a weird thing. But I am here today to not only play Mega Man X for you again for the 19th time, whatever it is, but the special guest is truly special. This is someone I've known, man, probably for a decade now. One of my favorite people in the world. Someone who I feel like we didn't get enough time working together, but I wish we did. And she was a part of my childhood, whether I liked it or not, just by proxy of the things that I watched. Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa Foiles. Lisa, thank you for being here.
Hi. Oh, I'm sorry. Do I know you? How did you get this number? No, you are famous and you need to own it. Dude, it is so good to talk to you and hear your voice. Yes, I've known you for a bazillion years, and I don't get to see you very often anymore, and that makes me very sad face. But, oh my God, we're here and we're doing it.
We're doing it. You ready to see some Mega Man X action?
I'm so ready, and I'm going to do my best to just distract you with crazy stories and shocking events so that you plummet to your death.
Great. I've got basic research on you, aka your Wikipedia page, so I'm very excited. I love going through Wikipedia pages with folks and just kind of going like, what is true, what is not true. Tell us your perspective, because this stuff is always so all over the place. So I'm ready.
Yeah, and this is extra funny for me because I often pop up in these articles that are like, "Where are they now?" all about old Nickelodeon stars, and I often screen cap all of the errors and put them on my Instagram. Like, okay, well that's wrong, and that's wrong, and that's wrong, and that's not true, and that's not true. So I'm sure it would be similar. I have not checked up on my Wikipedia page in a minute, but every time I do, there is something just glaringly incorrect. So
great.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Let's get started, and immediately I got some questions to ask you. We're gonna make it basic first. So first and foremost, your occupation per Wikipedia says you are an actress, presenter, video game journalist, model, and author. Now, for the most part, me knowing you, almost all of these things are true. Would you agree to that?
I would agree, except I don't like referring to myself as a video game journalist because I don't feel like anything I did in the gaming industry was ever true journalism. It was usually just me, being silly and saying silly things about video games and doing top 5 lists. I'm not sure that qualifies as journalism, but sure, we'll go with it. Yeah,
in some circles they call it journalism. Others they call it TMZ, but that's just the way that the internet works.
Yeah.
Okay, so now a lot of folks at home probably don't know where they probably heard the name and recognize the name, but you got your front and center feature really in, I want to say, all that was all that the first thing?
It was the second thing I did.
The second thing was the first.
Do you know what the first one is?
I want to say Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, Malcolm came much later. It was actually Even Stevens on Disney Channel.
You were on Even Stevens. Wow.
Yes, I was a recurring character.
Stevens. You were Carla for 2 episodes.
It was, yes. I was like Ren's little groupie. Ren was Christy Carlson Romano, the main character on Even Stevens with Shia LaBeouf, who played Lewis. And I was like her groupie, and I was obsessed with her, and I wanted to be just like her. And so in the episode where she gets her first F, I'm like devastated because she's not living up to, the perfect person that I was admiring. So I did that and became great friends with Lauren Frost, who plays Ruby. And that was such a fun experience. That's when I got to meet Shia for the first time. And everybody always asks me about, like, do you have any Shia stories? And I'm like, I don't really have any specific Shia stories, but I will tell you that dude was the most hyperactive man I think I've ever met. Like, he was just all over the place. He was on this side of the set, and then he was skateboarding to this side of the set, and then he'd run up and he'd say like one sentence, and then he'd run away. And I'm like, well, who is this guy?
Well,
he was super nice.
You guys were kids, so like,
yes, we were kids. Definitely.
Yeah, it's people are like, it wasn't he weird? It's like he was 12. Come down. What do you want here?
Yeah, this coming and and it's funny because then I went on to do all that shortly after. And if you were ever in a room with me and my fellow cast members on all that, it was very much similar. It was just chaos and ADD behavior just all the time.
So you were on all that for 3 years, from 2002 to 2005, correct?
4 years. I was
4
on
years.
Four seasons. And then outside of that, I would return to Nickelodeon to do like little one-off shows and hosting stuff. So I like to say I was technically part of the Nickelodeon
family.
For families, a much better Maybe it's because I'm watching Mega Man. I'm like, look at all of these machines. I was part of a machine too. I can totally relate to this. But I was part of the Nickelodeon family for like five years, I'd say. And then, of course, I mean, I'm sure this will come later. I'm fast forwarding. I'm like in that documentary where they're like, all of a sudden, they're like, and they fast forward like 80 years. They brought me back for the reboot of all that. So then I was, that adds a little more time to my
that was
Nickelodeon tenure.
The reboot was in 2020.
The reboot of the reboot, yeah.
The reboot of the reboot.
Double reboot, yeah. But back. We're going back. The documentary's jumping back to, what is it, 2000, whatever, 2002, 2000, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I was on all that for 4 years. That's basically like a college degree.
Yeah.
I have like a Nickelodeon college degree.
So it says here that you were also in the Master of Disguise. Is that true? Lisa? Did I lose you?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. You're back. Okay.
Yeah, you were cutting out just for a second. I don't know if it was me or you. I'm going to take the blame because I take the blame for everything. So I'm just going to apologize for the first time of many this whole podcast.
So it says here that you were a part of Master of Disguise.
Yes, sir. True? I was. It is true. Although my scene was cut out. So I'm in the deleted scenes of the DVD, if anyone still has that. I don't even know if it's on YouTube.
And
story behind that.
Yeah, go ahead. No. I was just gonna say you're playing yourself because it says Wikipedia just says Lisa.
See, Jirard, when you're very, very famous, you end up playing yourself in movies because you're so famous that no one would ever believe you're playing a character because that's obviously Lisa Foyle's international child superstar. No, so I don't even know how this happened. I feel like this was some kind of, I don't know if I should even say this, but I feel like it was some kind of like under the table deal where like somebody in Hollywood did a favor for somebody else and that return of the favor was like, okay, but you have to put the cast of all that in your movie. And they're like, sure, we'll do it. Because it didn't gelled with the whole thing, Yeah. So the scene is he's in some kind of like, God, I haven't seen the movie in forever, but he's at some kind of like toy convention and he shows up. He causes like mass destruction, and then 5 of us from all that, they've just picked 5 of us from the cast to we run up, we're holding all that merchandise, and all that hat and shirts and all this stuff. And then Chelsea just screams, "That's the guy, he's the one who stole our booth." And then he goes, "Oh no, run away." And then he knocks over these giant toy soldiers and causes this chaos. So that was our scene. We ran up holding our own merchandise, said, "That's the guy that stole our booth." Cut out of the movie, still was invited to the premiere, so got to sit in the theater during the premiere watching the movie, realizing our scene was cut out, saying, "Hey, why are we here?"
They were like, you know what? We should just. They're like in the zone. We want to at least let them see the product that are not in.
Yeah, just give them some free popcorn. They're kids. They'll love it.
So I have to ask, just because obviously thinking about it now, you know, you were young, but like Dana Carvey is like a freaking comedic icon and legend. In that moment, were you like, oh my God, I'm working with Dana Carvey? Or just was like, oh yeah, I've seen SNL every now and then. I've seen Wayne's World or whatever it is.
Dude, he was a god to me. This man was a god to me. I mean, honestly, probably all of us like that. We all had such a deep respect for comedy and, you know, comedians of generations before us. And of course, we were all huge SNL fans. I mean, we were on the kids' version of SNL. How can you not be an SNL fan? So yeah, we were all just totally starstruck. He was the nicest, sweetest, most gentle man you'll ever encounter, and just so sharp, man. I mean, you hear him on like Conan and these podcasts that he's guesting on lately, and you can tell just he's so fast with an accent, so fast with a bit, you know. Such a nice guy. So if nothing else, I mean, I guess, you know, a lot of people thought that movie was a bad movie and it got bad reviews. So of course, like a lot of people made fun of me through the years, like, oh, you were on Master of Disguise. And I just could not care less about anyone's opinion. I got to work with Dana Carvey. I got to meet him. I got to hang out with him. I got my picture with him. I got to be in a movie with him. And that's a once in a lifetime experience. And yeah, I loved it. I'm glad it happened.
That makes my heart so warm, because I personally, I haven't seen the movies in a long time, but my Alex and I, we always quote the trailers and the sound clips that Dana Carvey does say in the movie, just because they're, you know, am I not turtly enough for you? It's like so like of that specific era of quotable things you'd see in a trailer that I always remember that. So I want
like turtle, and I think most of it was ad-lib too, from what I remember. He ad-libbed so much.
I mean, if you listen to any of the podcasts, he recently did Smartless, which with Bateman.
Love Smartless.
Oh, it is my Bible. I listen to it every week. And he was on it, and like he just unlocked so many memories for me, you know, from Garth to making copies to everything else, and it was just so fun. Or no, he wasn't making copies, was he? I think he was. No, that was Schneider. It was Hans and Franz. So good.
Yeah.
So I want to take it back, because this is obviously your professional career. But when did the acting bug start for you, and how did it start for you? Because obviously, you know, 2001, you're 2 years older than me. So in 2001, I was probably, I want to say 14. So you were probably what, 15, 16 when you started?
I think when I booked all that, I was 13, and then when we started filming, I was 14.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I don't know how that lines up with the years, and also I could be wrong. On my own podcast, I say that all the time. Like, here's a fact, or maybe it's not. I don't really know. But so I was living in a small town. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon. I'm a Portland girl.
Cool.
And I moved to Spokane, Washington with my family, and I was dancing competitively up there. I was doing like I was dancing so much, like ballet and jazz and tap. Tap was like my forte. I was like a national champion tap dancer. It was my thing. And my big shtick that I did that nobody else did was a song and dance where I would sing and tap dance at the same time. I wouldn't tap and then stop and then sing and then tap and then stop and then sing. I would sing and tap the whole time for 2.5 minutes. And people were just very wowed by this. And I'm like, I have a 11-year-old stamina. Of course I can do this. So, you know, looking back now, I'm like, yeah, I was young. Freaking of course I could do that. Now I can do it for 30 seconds and pass out. But so I was doing really, really advanced tap moves at the same time while singing. And I was just sweeping. I was cleaning up at every competition. And doing this kind of theatrical type dance also led naturally into theater. So I really liked doing theater, did a couple theater performances. And then some judges at one of the national competitions came up to my mom and dad, and they were like, hey, your kid's talented, and she's never going to go anywhere in Spokane, Washington. So if you believe in her talent and you can afford it, please move her to Los Angeles. So God bless my parents, they did. And we picked up and we moved to Los Angeles. And through a friend of a friend, I got an agent, and the rest is kind of history. I think I went out on auditions for a year before I booked Even Stevens, and then all that was shortly after that. And then there you go. Yeah. So it was kind of from dance. Like dance kind of led to it.
It's crazy. So you just had experience under your belt. No training, just like, outside of like dancing and singing, like you trained, but like as far as like acting goes, you just were like, hey, I can do these two things. Now I'm gonna do the third thing and just kind of go from there.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like looking off and talking, and then I totally forget that you're just fighting a giant mechanical bird monster in front of me on my screen. I'm like, oh my God, there's a battle going on, and we're just talking about my past. Like, this is intense. Okay, so I basically picked up and moved to Southern California. Started doing theater just because that's like an easy thing to get into to kind of keep your skills up.
Absolutely.
And my mom signed me up for acting lessons with this wonderful lady named Cindy Hogan, and she still does it, and she's still amazing. If you need an acting coach, look up Cindy Hogan. It's a funny story because I'd never done anything on camera before. I show up for my first acting lesson, a white t-shirt, and my hair super slicked and pulled back. And in this acting lesson, she has a camera set up, and she's like, all right, first lessons in going to an audition, never wear white and never slick your hair back like that.
Oh, no.
Like I walked in, she's immediately like, you're doing everything wrong. So, yeah, I just vividly remember that moment of like feeling confident walking into these acting lessons and her being like, no, all wrong.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so she basically transformed me into a white-hot raging ball of pure entertainment, or whatever John Lovett says in the Simpsons episode. So yeah, she trained me, and then I just started going out on auditions, and eventually I booked one.
That is so crazy. Where, if you don't mind me asking, what part of LA did you live in?
I actually lived in Riverside, California, because...
So you were not in LA, you were in deep Orange County and then some.
It depends, because when I was filming all that, we did live in LA. We lived in an apartment in LA every time we were filming. But outside of that, yes, you're right. We had a house in Riverside and would drive back and forth. That was back in the days where it didn't take 3 hours to get from Riverside to LA in traffic. A lot faster. So yeah, my parents were like, we also want her to have a real childhood and go to like a regular school and have a house and a backyard, and we cannot afford that in Los Angeles. So
correct.
We did the thing where we we just lived further out, got a house, and I had a giant backyard, and we had a pool, and we had like an orange orchard that I'd play in all the time. Great, awesome childhood house. And then we would just drive back and forth.
Wow. So okay. Let me go back to my Wikipedia notes here. So you were basically working from 2001 consistently to it looks like after Malcolm in the Middle and the 10-year anniversary reunion of all that, you took some time off, I'm assuming, to finish high school and go to college.
I was already done with high school. It was that weird period of time where all of us sort of in this child acting sphere, kind of all the same age in LA, we were all kind of choosing, we do college or do we stay and keep acting? You know what I mean? Or do we stay and try to do both? I had some friends who were just like, screw that. Like, I'm not going off to college. Like, I'm staying and still working. Like, why would I hurt my acting career by going off to college? And then you had people who are the opposite, like, I'm going back to my hometown and going to college and then coming back when I'm ready. And that's kind of what I did. I was a little torn, but I had a scholarship to the University of Idaho, which was where my whole family went. My family's, alma mater, and I loved it up there. Idaho's the most beautiful state ever. So it was kind of calling my name. I had a scholarship in acting and theater and musical theater, and I was, I was really, really heavily in the industry at around, I was about 18 or so when all that ended. I didn't really have a lot of normal friends. I definitely did not really have a normal environment.
Yeah.
Nothing about being a star in Hollywood is normal. It's very not normal.
What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that can really weigh on you when you're 18 and you're trying to figure out who you are and, you know, what you like and, you know, who you want to hang with. And so it was not a great time for me. There were a couple really, really big roles that I basically booked and then were taken away from me and given to somebody more famous because that's what they do in Hollywood. And I was taking it so personally, like way too personally. Like one in particular, like I'm not ever gonna name what they were because it's honestly still too hard to like to talk about it. But I have enough distance to at least address what happened, you know?
Sure.
So I would book this huge role, one in particular, taken away from me kind of at the last minute. And I like locked myself in my room for 3 days and didn't talk to anybody and just cried and was super, super sad. And my parents are like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
She is depressed at 18 because of Hollywood and acting. This is not good. So they sat me down and they had this great talk with me. And they're like, hey, you need to live a normal life. You need to step away for a little bit. Come back when you're ready. You can always come back. Hollywood is not going anywhere. Oh, have a normal life. Do the normal thing. Get educated. Let me go. So I did. And thank God I did, because I moved back to Idaho for a while, then ended up moving back to Portland, fell into the best, the greatest like friends group, you know? And these were the type of friends where I would tell them about like the show or movie that I lost out on that completely crushed my world. And they're like, what? What show is that? I haven't even heard of it. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Thank God. They don't care because everyone in Hollywood cares. It's a big deal. So then suddenly I was with these friends who just wanted to hang out with me because they liked me and because they liked my personality, not because I was on TV. And that was super, super refreshing. So I'm so glad I did that.
That's awesome. Wow. So it's so funny because thinking about how I've known you, this all just makes so much sense because when you and I, so I guess we can kind of fast forward a little bit, or rather let's bridge the gap. Okay. So you're in Portland, you're finding yourself, you're finding your passion. What brings you back to LA to then kind of enter like the YouTube video game journalism world? Because at this point you haven't once said video games, but I've always associated you with video games just because of our circle of people that we've known for so long. How did that all kind of transition for you?
Well, this is perfect timing because it was when I moved back to Portland and fell into that group of friends that introduced me back to video games. Of course, I played them when I was younger, and we had an Xbox and a couple game systems on the set of all that in the green room, but I was always just so busy, with the show that I didn't really sit and play them too much, and also I was terrible. I've always been terrible at video games. No matter how much I love them, I'll pick a couple and I'm amazing at them, but for the most part, I just have such terrible coordination. Not great at them, but that's never stopped me. You see, kids, don't let lack of talent stop you from going after whatever. So these group of friends this friend group I fell into, huge gamers. So I was sitting and just watching them play all of these games, getting really into it. Of course, they'd pass me the controller and then I'd play for a while. And then they had such a deep, dictionary knowledge of all of these games that kind of just by association, I then also achieved. I then, by osmosis or whatever, I got the knowledge that they had. And that mixed with all the video games I played as a kid, I just kind of, became really into video games.
Yeah.
And around that time, I just kind of started posting video game reviews online, just writing them. I started a stupid website with my friends up there called Save Point, and we would just write dumb video game reviews just because we were having fun with it.
Yeah.
And then other video game sites would contact us and we would do collabs. And then eventually that led to Kotaku, where they invited me on as a guest columnist once a month. I'd just contribute a guest column Again, not journalism, just like, here are my thoughts about whatever.
Yeah.
Let's do an entire article about the Lancer from Gears of War. Here are my thoughts. It goes like this. Just dumb stuff, right? Just so dumb. And they were all comedy. Like, every article I wrote was, like, comedic themed. And it's funny because I remember doing an entire article about people looking stupid in TV shows pretending to play video games and how it's so not believable, and they're like moving the controller back and forth and hitting 1,000 buttons a second. They're like, I'm playing video games. It's like, no, you're not. And I used a screenshot from Big Bang Theory as part of that article, which is funny because fast forward years later, my husband worked on Big Bang Theory, and I know like everybody worked on the show, so I'm like, I hope you weren't offended that like, I wrote a whole article about how bad you guys are at playing video games on TV. But anyway, yeah, so then Kotaku had me writing columns. I started going to E3, again, for funsies. I was going to E3 and PAX and GDC, like all these conventions just because they were giving me passes, I guess. I don't know. They're like, hey, you're on all that. Have a pass. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I would start like doing little videos on my own. I did like a top 10 video games that I saw at E3 or PAX or whatever. Like I would do that on my own. And then eventually like The Escapists picked me up and they're like, hey, can we just like pay you to do top 5 videos? I'm like, okay. And I was doing all of this up in Portland. And it just kind of snowballed to the point where I felt like I was missing out because I had so many friends doing video game related shows in LA. So I'm like, I need to go back to LA. I missed it. I wanted to get back to acting. I wanted to, I needed to scratch the itch, Jirard. The itch was there. It was very itchy. I had to scratch it. So I moved back to LA and kind of became this actress for hire in the YouTube world. It's so funny to say that, but like, the old, Polaris and like all the different big umbrellas that had lots of YouTube channels under them, I would kind of be like for hire for them, and they'd be like, hey, we need you over on this channel, we need you over on this channel wants to have you in a sketch, this channel wants to have you in a sketch, and I just kind of jump around and host a show here and there and guest on people's channels, and I loved it. I loved the idea that I got to be a part of all these YouTube channels without the pressure of having my own YouTube channel. Because what you guys did was hard. What you still do is hard. It's so hard. Oh my God. To make a living on YouTube. Jeez. God.
Okay, this is perfect. So I'm going to ask you a question that you may or may not remember, but do you remember the first time we met?
I believe it was on the set of Miyamoto's Angels. No.
So close.
Before that? Oh God.
So
okay.
close.
What was it?
The first time I met you, I was an extra.
Street Fighter.
No, not Street Fighter.
Oh, Street Fighter came after Miyamoto's Angels.
Yes, it was the Spaghetti Western Zelda that we shot.
Oh, yes. But you know why I don't remember, right?
Why?
You know?
Because that shoot sucked?
No, because I was horribly, horribly ill. Do you remember? I was throwing up on set.
I don't. You did not exuberate that at all. At all.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's very sweet.
I did not. I didn't know you were sick. No.
Everybody else knew.
So to give you some context where you and I met, I had just started doing YouTube. I think I was like 6 months into the process, and I had just signed with the Game Station through Maker Studios, which ended up becoming Polaris.
That's what it is. Game Station, Maker, Polaris.
Yeah. Which honestly was stupid. They should have kept it as the Game Station. I don't know why they called, especially because everything at Maker at the time was the station, the music station, Station 1, Station 2, Game Station. Like, it just made sense to leave it as the Game Station, but they rebranded it and kept changing it, and I have no idea why. But I remember the first time I saw you work with the Game Station was the Street Fighter, and I was like, holy shit, like, Lisa Foyles from all that, like, is into video games and also like is still acting and doing cool shit. Aww. That's awesome. And then flash forward like 3 months later, and I got my MCN manager, because back I didn't understand as a young YouTuber what they were doing, but basically they were like, hey, if a YouTuber is in LA, let's stick them in sketches and in shows to like use their followers to come and to the Hub channel and like subscribe, because that was the old
cross promote everything.
Yeah, and that was the old meta of YouTube, right? It was like the more Smash Bros collaboration you can make this, the more audience members show up. And so I didn't have any grasp of that. I just was like, oh, I'm a tiny baby YouTuber and I get to hang out with like with Dodger and Jesse Cox and then suddenly Lisa Foyle's like, holy crap, what is my life? This is amazing. So I played an extra as like a person of Cockrico, as a cowboy guy. I'm in like 2 shots. I say nothing. I just glare ahead and I'm like looking angrily because Ganondorf is like, trying to find whatever it was. But that was the first time we met, and I don't even think I actually said hello to you. I was too nervous. I viewed you as like a genuine celebrity, and I was like, man, that'd be so cool to like hang out with her one day. And then like a couple weeks later, the Game Station called me in for a segment on that show that you and Davis used to host.
Yeah, Remag.
Yeah, Remag, that's right. And so I hosted a segment there, and then Davis and I became really close friends, and I think we ended up doing a couple of Warp Zone shoots together. It just kept being the thing where like you and I just kept showing up at the same time to things, and eventually we just kind of knocked up a friendship. And it all happened so quickly because I remember getting to know you and becoming your friend and being so excited, and then like a year later you moved away, and I got so sad because we didn't really get to do all that much together, but what we did together was so fun.
I know, you were cool as shit. I remember that. I was like, God, this guy's so cool. And so yeah, of course, naturally we had a friendship because you were so awesome. Yes, I do remember you. It's so funny because I did meet a lot of people on the set of the Fistful of Rupees, which was that's what it was. Zelda Spaghetti Western that we did. But again, I was so sick, I was a little out of it. And that was kind of near the beginning of when I was working with all these channels. So I remember watching it back years later and be like, oh my gosh, look at all my friends that were in this show that became my friends later. I didn't know at the time. So yes, of course, I remember when you were there. But yeah, I was so sick that like they would literally have to yell cut as I just leaned over, just vomit into the dirt and then wipe my mouth and come back and be like, okay, I'm ready, let's keep going. Seriously, the illest I've ever been. That makes it sound like I was cool. The sickest I've ever been. Still kind of sounds like I was cool. Just the grossest. Oh my God, the worst flu I've ever had in my life was that period of time. And I'm out there in Malibu on that ranch with like no proper bathrooms and just, I was so sick, Jirard. It's so awful. But yeah, so you know what's funny? I actually use you as inspiration so much. And here's why. I remember when you were at Remag, and I think it was after one of the Remags that you and I went out to lunch. We went to Lazy Dog.
Yep.
In California. I have a very good memory, Jirard.
You are impressing the shit out of me because I remember this.
You ordered the mozzarella sticks, and I ordered a lemon. No, I don't remember that. But yes, so we went out to lunch, and we were talking about. It was like a deep conversation. We started talking about like the future and like what we wanted and our dreams and what, all that fun existential stuff. And I remember at that time you were at this crossroads. You were like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should keep going. I want to keep going because I believe in what I'm doing, but I'm not succeeding at the rate that I would like to. And some days it just feels like it's too much and like I'm just spinning my wheels and I don't know what I should do, but then, some days it's good, some days it's bad. I'm not sure what to do. And I think I was like, you should just quit. You should just like fall in a trench and just die. No, I'm just kidding. I think I was very supportive. And I was like, bro, you got to do it. Like, you're doing it. You got to do it. And yeah, I think at the end of that lunch, you and I were both just, championing for each other. Just, you can do it. You can do it. We can do it. And it was like, not even 6 months later that you just blew up, dude.
Yeah.
Like you just were huge. It went from like 0 to 60 on your channel. It felt like in a minute. And I was so damn proud of you. And I use that a lot. I have a lot of friends like through the years who have like started an endeavor, whether it's online or what, who just they've been doing it for a couple years. They're not sure what they should do. And I'm just like, hey, look at my friend Jirard. Look at his channel now.
Oh.
Let me tell you, I went to lunch with this man and he was doubting himself and he didn't know what he should do. But he did it anyway. And look at him. Look at all that he's accomplished. Dude's on like everything. G4, like everything. Like, look at this guy. So even though you and I don't hang out and chat as much as I would like us to do, I still talk about you probably more often than certainly more often than you know. But yeah, I feel like it was just a couple weeks ago I used that story on somebody else and they're like, that is so cool.
You made my day, Lisa. I remember. I don't remember everything, but I remember the feeling we had in that conversation, just the vibe, and I felt so defeated. And I remember why. I remember specifically why, and it's something I never forgot about. And you had told me that, like, similarly to how we were talking earlier about like how you told me about that incident in which you had lost an opportunity and how it affected you, and something along the lines of I remember that the game station, like, and this is true in YouTube in general, there is a zeitgeist of the most popular YouTuber in the room is the one that everyone flocks to. That was always at the game station. That was very much true. Like, you know, like at the time, and I'm friends with those guys, obviously the Game Grumps, like Aaron and Danny, they were like the shiny toy at the game station. If you weren't the two of them, the game station didn't really help you, you know. And then of course Markiplier and PewDiePie and Septiceye came along, and then they were the new toy. But that was something that, like, I remember having a hard time dealing with, is like, hey, like they're promised me all these things to help me make content and they're not fulfilling it, and like they're not very nice to me, and they kind of like throw me scraps, and I felt useless. And then, like, going back to the YouTube thing, I remember feeling this immense pressure of, fuck, I'm not going anywhere, am I? Like, this is insane. And then when you told me your story, I was like, but you're here, like you're in LA, you're back, you're acting, you're doing stuff. And I remember you had kind of similar frustrations with the game station as well. And I think, like, that catalyst, I never forgot that moment with you. And I was gonna bring it up, but you brought it up, and and it's something that I'll never forget, especially because you would go on to do stuff for Desk Battle, or Death Battle, Desk of Death Battle. You were Jocelyn the intern with the Screw Attack team, and then you moved to Vegas shortly after. And you invited me to your wedding, which was the fucking highlight of my year. When you invited me to your wedding, and I just remember being like, I think I said, like, hey, you sure about this? I was like, you sure you want me at your wedding?
Oh,
like,
that went to you by accident. If I could just have that back. It never happened. You dork. Of course. Oh my God. Yes, totally. You know what? And just even going back to the conversation, I think it did help that I had a different perspective on all of it, because I had been in Hollywood and doing the child star thing since I was like 12 and 13. So to me, and again, I didn't have my own channel. I was kind of like for a gun for hire.
Yeah.
I kind of was looking at this YouTube world as like a mini Hollywood.
Yeah.
And being like, oh, this is interesting and a little destructive. Like, do they know what they're doing? So again, like I was viewing it all from the outside, but again, I wasn't part of the, like, you know, like you said, like the shiny toy syndrome, but I definitely saw it. I was able to, like, kind of see it from a distance, whereas, you know, a lot of you guys were so far in it, it's hard to get perspective when that's your whole world. So I think that probably helped, at least in our conversation, to be like, this is all, you know, this, take a step back. Like, you can be bigger than all of this. This is all very, it was so weird. It was very weird. And obviously it all kind of imploded and it's all different now, but that was like a ticking time bomb. Like, so much of that was just like, I knew so much of that whole environment was just gonna explode. So again, happy that I was kind of doing my own thing, but fun to be involved because I met a lot of cool people. But yes, you're right. I moved to Vegas because I met my husband in LA and we were both thriving and doing great stuff. But it seemed like all of my acting opportunities could be done online. It was when all of the auditions started to go online anyway. So I was living in LA, paying these insane prices, and for living, you know, and everything I was doing was online. So I'm like, I can just live in Vegas, where the cost of living is a fraction of what it is in LA. You know, I think my mortgage for my house now, I have like a 2-story, like 5-bedroom house. I think it's like, you know, half of what my rent was for a studio apartment in Burbank. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. Just like quality of life just shot up when we moved out here. And Sean had a great opportunity out here in Vegas. And I'm still able to drive back and forth all the time. I'm in LA. Usually I'm in LA once a month. It's been a little slower lately because of all of the things. But yeah, it was great. And of course, it was a no-brainer to invite you to my wedding. Wanted you there, of course. Caitlin was there, and that was such a fun day to be able to look out in the sea of people and, you know, have so many smiling, kind, wonderful faces looking back at me. We're getting so touchy-feely here. We're just so sentimental, Jirard. I didn't sign up for this.
Oh man, this has been so fun. Thank you for doing this. What was I going to ask you? Okay, so looking at your Wikipedia page, if anyone, I can understand why so many dumb websites like Cracked and whatever would make articles that's like, where's Lisa Foyles now? Because looking at your Wikipedia filmography stuff, like, it looks like you stopped doing a lot of appearances and work stuff, like essentially when you moved to Vegas. I know that you're a busy working lady. You're always doing things. So I know that a lot of it is the fact that it's not here is probably bullshit. But in the time that you've moved to Vegas, what is like, aside from starting a family and being a mom and stuff, what is like the thing that you've been so stoked to work on? You wrote a book during the pandemic, which is amazing, and I've got it. I've got a copy of it in my mantle here in my house.
Aww, so sweet.
What I mean, you could say the book, but yeah, like what is something that you've been working on or did work on in the last decade or so that you're so excited about?
Oh, Las Vegas is the entertainment capital of the world. I mean, people think that LA is, but honestly, it's Vegas. Like, we are the entertainment capital of the world. That's literally like what we get to call ourselves. Yeah. There is a huge local market out here, especially if you're a decent host. And it was all of that You know, it's funny because I never wanted to be a host, and I always wanted to be an actor. I would always say, like, I'm not a host, I'm an actor. And Game Station always wanted me to host. And I kept telling them, I'm like, okay, I'll do this because I want the paycheck, but like, I'm not a host, I'm an actor.
Yeah.
But because I ended up doing so much hosting for the Game Station, and again, I never thought I was great at it. Like, I never felt like I did it so much that it just started to come really naturally. I had moments where like I felt like I was comfortable as a host, but I don't know, it just never really felt like my thing. I was an actor, I was a creator, I was a musician. Like I was more of a creative than a host. Yeah. But honestly, I think it was those years of like boot camp host training at the Game Station and through and all these video game channels that I worked for, you know, like IGN and GameSpot and like all Escapist, like all of these sites that I was hosting for. It just kind of turned me into a host. And so when I came out to Vegas, I mean, I book almost every hosting gig that comes along. You know, there's live hosting, there's conventions all the time. There's I've hosted some esports tournaments at the Luxor. I host a show called Vegas On, where I get to film in these incredible Vegas locations and tell people like why they should come to Vegas and what's hot right now. Like, I got to film a whole episode of Vegas on top of the pirate ship at Treasure Island. People can't go up there unless you're getting married and pay like so much money to get married on the pirate ship. Well, I got to go up on the pirate ship and film a whole episode. I got a behind the scenes tour of Allegiant Stadium. I get to talk to these chefs who like make me my own dish, like right in front of me with meat that costs, you know, hundreds of dollars. You know, I've got to go into like the innards of all of these casinos where normal people don't get to go, and I'm so blessed that I've had these opportunities. But man, the work, usually, not in the last couple of months, because again, it's like the industry's a little weird, but usually the work here in Vegas is like nonstop. And it's not always something that gets put on an IMDb page or that gets added to a Wikipedia page, but it's usually great money and really fun. I hosted a show for the UFC for about 4 years called the UFC Minute. That was a really, really important, like, okay, let me just explain what the show was and you'll see what I mean. It was a daily show that I filmed, edited, produced myself, and sent off to the UFC. So basically, every morning at an unknown time, it could be any time throughout the day, usually in the morning time, they would send me a script, and then I had about an hour to film it, edit it, export it, send it back to the UFC, and they published it that day. And I did that Monday through Friday for about 4 years. And damn, did that help my memorization skills, my editing skills, just all around. My skills as like my own cameraman, my own mic person, like just doing that every day for so long. Just, you know, to this day, I can be handed a script and I can have it memorized in probably 5 minutes because of that job.
Lisa,
So again, that
realize,
doesn't get put on an IMDb page.
You realize that
Wikipedia, but yeah, huge thing.
You realize that you were a content creator for 4 years. That's like what you were, like a daily content news creator. Like that is intense.
I didn't write the scripts. I would sometimes rewrite it here and there if I wanted to say it a different way. But basically, remember they needed a host. They needed a pretty girl who could read the news and do a good job. And a friend of a friend. Again, this is such a small town. I mean, Vegas is a small, small town. Everybody here knows each other. You take out all the tourists and you're left with just a group of people where everybody knows each other. And the tourists pay all of our state taxes, and it's awesome. But anyway, the UFC brought me in as they thought they were bringing me in to interview me as a host. Okay, well, we have a budget for somebody to host it, and then somebody to film it, and then somebody to edit it. And I'm like, or you could just give me the entire budget and I'll do all three. And they said, you can do that. And I'm like, hey, yep. Not knowing if I could or not, did it anyway. And yeah, so then they just had their journalism team ready every day with the latest news and, you know, here's who's injured and here's who's fighting who. Write it down in a script, email it to me. I immediately turned it around. Wow. And so, you know, to this day, it's easy to do that.
That's... I'm losing you, Lisa.
You hear me?
I think
Hello,
you're back.
Can you hear me?
You're back. You're back.
Okay, I'm back.
All right, so go back to yeah, you were saying that they gave you the whole budget and you were trying to see if you could do it.
Yeah, basically they had a budget for 3 people, and I'm like, or you could just give it all to me and I'll do the work of all 3 people on my own. So I just set up a green screen in my spare bedroom here and just kind of had it always ready. Like I had the lights always ready and the camera always ready. I would just get hair and makeup ready from the waist up. A lot of great behind the scenes pictures of me, like very businessy from the waist up for my filming, and then in just like, you know, boxer shorts the waist down, because no one can see me, so it's fine. But yeah, that was a great gig. And yeah, I do a lot of voiceover work here too. And I'm in a band here because I worked with like the best audio engineering studio in town so often that I became friends with them. And the main guy, one of the main engineers there, James, he started a band, and so he brought me into the band, so now I'm in a band, and I get to do that here in Vegas. So I'm thriving, man. I'm thriving. And yes, I wrote the book. I got to, sadly, the book released to the public on April of 2020. So all of my appearances and my whole book tour got canceled, and that made me
oh man.
So it's certainly, can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, you left for a second. Yeah, so I had this whole like book tour and this whole PR thing planned, and of course it all just came crashing down when the world shut down. So I don't think the book did as well as it could have done with all of that press that was going to be behind it and all of my personal appearances that I was planning. But whatever. We're all healthy. Everything's good. Like, we're fine. It's fine. It reached a lot of people. I got so much great feedback. Still to this day, people are asking me to autograph it and telling me that, like, their daughter, loved it, and their daughter wants to write a book because they read your book. Just all these amazing, touching messages, which was the whole goal. Because I always say that it's like reading these little fantasy middle grade novels as a kid is what turned me into a creative person and an actor. That was always my goal, was to pay it forward. If I was inspired by these authors, maybe I can inspire a little girl or a little boy to go on and creative and dream about dragons, and you can go be an actor. You go do it. That's the whole goal. So I feel like I achieved that goal.
For everyone at home who's listening to it for the first time, what is like the synopsis of your book that you could best describe for everyone at home?
I like to say it's sort of a cross between the first Harry Potter book and Pokemon, where this little girl goes to this elaborate, huge academy where every student there has their own like mythological creature, their own pet, and every pet has different magical abilities, and as a result, the kid then kind of adopts the abilities of their pet, and they, train their animal how to fight, how to world, and they're kind of these powerful creatures while also dealing with the being social and having friends and involved in, cliques and all that fun stuff. And then on top of that, there's like an evil man who's trying to take over the world. You know how it is. It's very much the first Harry Potter book when it comes to reading level. I know the Harry Potter books get like more and more intense and kind of age up with their audience as they get, as the books go on. But that first Harry Potter, that Sorcerer's Stone, it's very much like that length and that reading level. So if you have a son or daughter or a friend who like loves that book and that reading level, like definitely pick it up. It's called Ash, Ridley, and the Phoenix. It's all about this girl named Ash, and her magical creature is a phoenix. Cutest little bird who just like hiccups fireballs and causes destruction, and she's trying to deal with that. But yeah, I had such a great time writing that book, and stoked for the day that my daughter is going to read it. She's not quite there yet. I think next year.
Yay!
I can't wait. I cannot wait. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and she's just getting into like little chapter books. Turns 7 in September, and I think next year she's ready to read it. I can't wait for her to read it and absolutely hate it, because that's definitely what's going to happen. You dream of the day that your daughter loves your book and she's like, this sucks. I'm like, oh, first of all, watch her language, and second, I'm going to go cry for 8 days. Okay, great.
That's the most actor-y ass thing I've ever heard, that like my daughter's going to hate the thing that I'm a part of.
Or she's going to be like, it's really good, but I have some notes. Oh my God.
Wow, I feel like we just caught up, and I still have to beat the game, and I feel like we've kind of gone over what's been going on with you. What do you like? I mean, okay, so let's talk about the band. You've been in the band for a couple months now, a year.
Oh yeah, we gotta talk about the band.
Yeah.
Are you a metal fan? Do you like metal music?
I do love me some metal. Yes.
Sweet. Okay, so we sort of compare ourselves to the Misfits.
Okay.
Like, genre-wise, we're a little more tongue-in-cheek. So, and by tongue-in-cheek, I mean we don't take ourselves super seriously. We're amazing musicians. Like, our name is Von Boldt. Our lead singer is James Von Boldt, incredible guitar player, singer, audio engineer, just incredible all-around human being, and he looks like Thor. And our guitar player is Darren, and he played with, I can never remember if it's the Verve or the Verve Pipe, because I should know this by now, but I still don't. But you know the song The Freshman? They're like, for the life of me, I cannot remember what made me think that we were. I'm just going to keep singing until you stop.
Look, I'm entertained by your singing, so you can keep going as long as you want.
So he toured with them, and he's an absolutely incredible guitar player as well. Z is our bass player. He works everybody works with the casinos. Like, everybody creates like music and does engineering for all the casinos. You just not believe how much work there is here in town, with all these mega resorts. But yeah, so we play shows around Vegas, and I like to explain it as I wake up in the morning and I make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for my darling children, and I kiss them on the head and I send them off to school. And then at night, after they're in bed, I slather black Viking makeup across my eyes and put Viking braids in my hair, and I throw on a spiky leather jacket and I go scream at the top of my lungs on stage. It's my alter ego.
You are truly living the life.
Yeah, we actually I don't know why I didn't tell you this. Oh, you're going to be mad. You're going to be so mad. We just played in LA at the Whiskey A Go-Go for 2 nights, opening up for Doyle from the Misfits, and I didn't tell you.
Oh my God, you should have told me.
I know, I'm sorry. It was awesome.
We would have rallied the boys. We all would have showed up.
You know, actually, I just got to do something with the Warp Zone again recently. I did a couple video things for them, and then they hit me up and they're like, yo, we're doing a parody of Frank Sinatra's My Way for the DC universe, and we want you to sing as Wonder Woman. And I'm like, I'm in, let's do it. So I sang the vocals at home, drove to LA, and did all the filming there. And it's funny because James, the lead singer of Von Boldt, his name is, again, James Von Boldt, was already going to LA, so he gave me a lift to the set. So he shows up at the set with the Warp Zone guys, and James is the best. He's an interesting person where he's like always in character, but it's not a character. He's just like this cool, muscly rock star all the time. And the Warp Zone guys were just like, he's so cool. They're like, I think Davis was like, I feel like he's as cool as Johnny Depp wants to be. Like, who is this guy? Like, they were just like enamored with James. And, they were so mad that we just played the whiskey and didn't tell them. So they were the same way. They were like, why didn't you tell us? Like, we all would have come out. I'm like, I'm sorry. So we are going to play the Viper Room at some point in the near future, and a couple other places in LA want to book us. So, of course, I will let everybody know. I would love to see all the Warp Zone guys out at, whiskey on one of these nights where we play, because we're always playing with other metal and goth bands, so everybody's just, gothed up, the eyeliner and the wearing black, and it's a great environment. I'd love to see all my Warp Zone boys out there.
Lisa, where did you film the My Way video with the Warp Zone?
In Burbank.
Okay.
It's some kind of soundstage for rent.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't remember the name of it.
Because we share that office space in Torrance, where they shoot most of their sketches. So I was going to scream at them if I found out that you filmed it at our office and I just wasn't there that day. I would have been so mad.
I would have been so mad.
I would have been so pissed. I would have because you would have walked into my office and seen all my plaques and all of my photos and stuff, and all my memorabilia on the walls and stuff, and you would have been like, why is there stuff of Jirard here? And then I would have been told that you were there. I would have been, because I'm in the office almost 5 days a week, but when I was doing G4 and other things, I would very often only come in once or twice a week, or if I needed a break, I'd work from home or whatever. And the Warp Zone boys, whenever they request to film something in the office, they ask that everyone in the office not be there. So we usually respect their space and don't show up, or we'll try and help them film stuff. So if you were filming in our office, which you're not, so I'm glad, but if you were, I was gonna be pissed they didn't tell me.
Yeah, that would have been so. I would have demanded. I was like, you guys got to hire me for another sketch just so I can come back and film when Jirard is there. I know. I feel like you and I just did not get to really work together as much as we should have, because I think that we would have done great things, you and me, Jirard. I think we would have played off each other great. I think we would have had great comedic timing. We could have done all the things. The world could have been ours. Alas.
Well, I'll have to make sure. I'll have to make sure that if and when I make God of Work season 2, I'll have to cast you as one of our characters. Do you know what God of Work is, or am I just making up words to you? Uh-oh.
Oh, I do. God, it's been That's not recent, is it?
It is pretty recent. So,
maybe I don't know.
So, as you know, G4 came back, and then less than a year later, G4 went away. And one of the cool things I got to do was I created a show called God of Work. And it's a show where basically
you posted this on you shared it on Facebook. I saw it on Facebook.
Oh, you did. You saw me as Kratos. I shaved my head and all that stuff.
Yes, I did see that. Yes, I did see that. I did see that.
Yeah, it's basically it was The Office meets video game characters. Like video game characters are treated as actors, so like they had to go to a temp agency, and like that's what the show was about. And it was so fun making it, and
amazing.
We got greenlit for a second season, and I mean now I own the rights to it, so I can make a second season if I wanted. But it's shows are expensive to make, so
they sure are.
Yeah, so I would love to work with you in some capacity. So I might have to write a role just for you in the next season if we do it. That way you can come out and be a part of our weird world.
Dude, please do it. I'm gonna hold you to it, and I'm gonna go. How many episodes did you guys do?
Oh, we did 6, but we originally wanted to do, I think, 10. So we'll see what comes of it, what we end up doing. But I gotta find
binge
someone.
all of today. I cannot wait because I remember seeing you as Chris and being like, oh, this is awesome.
I think of it as an actor show. It's very much like, yes, there's video game stuff, but like if you're an actor, if you like The Office, if you like, any kind of comedy, it very much feels like a TV show and not just like there's references all over the place. Everything feels very specific and there. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, because I think you'd vibe with it for sure.
I cannot wait. I'm definitely going to watch it. It's so awesome. Dude, good for you. You're so flippin' creative. I'm like so proud of you. I remember the announcement with you going to G4. I'm like, yes. I was so stoked. Good for you, dude.
Thank you.
I'm sorry it all ended, but it's on to the next thing. It's always going to be the next thing. It's always gonna be the next thing.
Thank you. I'm not, I think the frustrating part about it is there's a different timeline where we were succeeding and doing great things, and the what ifs and what could be and should be are always going to be there. But I learned so much about who I am, how I talk to people, how I come off to people. I'm sometimes a little more intense than I intend to be. But the one thing is for sure, like I got bit by the acting bug again. So now I'm going on auditions again and doing voiceover stuff hopefully for video games and stuff. So I'm just like in that zone now where I'm like, okay, I missed doing this, because I hadn't really acted in anything like that outside of Warp Zone sketches for years. Because I did a lot of acting and attempting to get cast and stuff and extra work like all through my college years and all the theater years of my life. So it felt fun to kind of get back on that proverbial horse, and now I'm like, okay, how do I do it again, but better and fun and faster?
Yeah, no, 100%. I like to say that it's easier than ever and harder than ever now to be an actor. And by harder than ever, I mean that there is so much gatekeeping around the main roles of TV shows and movies. It's insane. Like when I started in the industry, even before I was a name, like with all that, and I was like doing really well, it still wasn't out of the ordinary for me to go up for like, a big role in a TV show, or like the starring role of a TV show or a pilot or a movie. Like they wanted to audition actors and they wanted to find like more unknowns. Now it is impossible to even audition for like a lead of a TV show or movies, because they've already got it cast. They will write movies for specific actors, or they'll write a movie, but they won't be able to sell it until they have a name actor signed on. So these main roles are already taken before you even know the movie exists or the show exists. So it's so gatekeepery. That's why you see the same actors over and over and over and over, because people are too scared to take a risk on somebody new these days, because money is, everything. Yeah. So it's harder than ever to become a Marvel movie star or a star of a TV show. Like it's probably never going to happen just because the odds are not in your favor. But it's also easier than ever to be an actor because anyone can do it and put their stuff online. Like you said, you can create a web series. You can put it online. You can get it in front of people. Hey, guess what? You're acting. It doesn't matter the level that you're acting. You're still acting.
Yeah.
And I love that. I absolutely love that. I mean, that's kind of what I did when I moved to Portland and kind of fell into that friends group. I missed it a lot, and I did a couple acting roles up in Portland in their smaller acting industry. I finally got to die on film. I got to die in a movie. The movie's called Shiver, and I get the garrote wire on my neck by a serial killer, and I got to bleed everywhere, and it was super fun. Everybody wants to die in a movie, and I finally got to do it. So, bucket list, check. But I was just up there with my friends, and I was like, I miss acting, and I miss doing comedy, and there weren't a lot of like I did Leverage when it came through town in Portland because they filmed in Portland, so I got to do a comedic part on Leverage on TNT. But again, that was like a 1 or 2 day shoot, and it just wasn't scratching the itch. So I told my friends, I'm like, we're starting a web series. We're just going to do it. And we did, and it was horribly, like the quality was horrible, but the content was super funny, and it was so great. And it was like me roping everybody into it, and they were all so thankful that I did because everybody ended up having a blast. So we were acting, And then again, that led into all the video game stuff, and then I got back into it. But you're totally right. I mean, if it's in you, it's in you. You can't just ignore it. If you're kind of born to do it, you have to do it in any capacity. So, that's another reason I just launched my podcast. And that's because, regular work has been slow. I haven't been able to scratch the creative itch outside of the band. The band has been great musically. I'm playing instruments again. I'm singing. I'm recording. I'm in the recording booth. That's all great. But the acting, it's like you sit at home and you're like, man, I just wish someone would let me act. I wish one of these casting directors would cast me and put me in a show so that I can act. Like, let me act. I know I'm good at it. You know I'm good at it. Let's just do it,
Yeah.
And you just get so frustrated with the gatekeeping in this industry. So I my YouTube days, I did, I had a YouTube channel more for a creative outlet than ever. I was never making a living off it. It was always just like, hey, I want to be creative and be funny and do funny things. I'm going to have a YouTube channel. And I was uploading pretty consistently. It was a blast. Got a lot of fans and, friends from it. Then I had my 2 kids, and suddenly, no time for that. Thankfully, they're a little bit older now. My son is 4 and my daughter is 6. And I'm not having any more. They cannot outnumber us. I couldn't handle it. So I have those 2. They're a little more self-sufficient now. And I'm able to, to start doing content again. And so I wanted to challenge myself to do something where I don't really plan it out and I don't cut. Because my YouTube videos, I would always plan them out and I would write out what I was going to say. Very actory, right? Like a very control freak actory. Like it needs to be lit this way and I need to say this. And if I don't say it right, I'm going to do another take. But what I realized is that's just not really super authentic. You get a perfect end product, but I feel that we live in a world where perfection's kind of the enemy. I think people want authenticity and they want people to be real. So I started my podcast called Temperamental. I'm on episode 8, which already for me, that's a huge pat on the back that I've done 8 in a row. I've done it for 8 weeks. And it's mostly on, Spotify. The video's on Spotify and YouTube. But the audio goes out everywhere. Spotify's kind of like my main hub, but I do put the video on YouTube for people who want to see it there. But that, again, like you were saying, it's just a great learning process and exercise, just like a weekly exercise in, hey, I'm just going to roll the camera for half an hour and I'm going to talk and then we're going to put it online. We're not going to overly edit it. We're not going to, edit ourselves. We're not going to, do multiple takes. We're not going to plan it out. We're going to go off the cuff and we're going to see what happens. And already, after doing it for 8 weeks, I feel like my improv skills are better and I'm better on camera and I'm just kind of keeping everything oiled, keeping it up. So I've been having a great time doing that amongst all my other things.
Congratulations. That's I did watch a couple of episodes on. But
you're going to be on it whenever you're in Vegas. You're coming on. I have an empty chair. You
great.
need to sit in it.
I'm ready. No problem. I'm down. That's easy.
The joke is that I wanted to start a podcast because I always wanted to do it with someone. Like I wanted to have a co-host that I could bounce off of. And I just didn't find one. Like I couldn't find a co-host here in Vegas that wanted to do it with me or that I thought I'd have good chemistry with. So I'm like, well, screw it. I'm just going to do it myself. So I host it myself and my stupid cat, Kevin, ends up sitting in the co-host chair. most of the episodes. So now I have a stupid cat co-host. But I was thinking after episode 10, I want to start having like a rotating co-host seat. I want to start getting friends in here, just telling stupid stories, nothing official, no segments, just tell me a dumb story that's going to make me laugh. And that's it.
Well, I got tons of those. So whenever you want, I will definitely come on the show.
Whenever you think of a really good one, make a note in your phone. I want a new note in your phone that says Lisa Foyle's podcast. And anytime a great story crosses your mind from your past, I want you to jot down a note. You're going to tell that story on my podcast. It's going to be great.
No problem. Easy peasy. I'm an encyclopedia of weird stories. I got you.
Wait. Yes. The weirder, the better. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Man. So tell me about Danger Force. What is Danger Force? This is the most recent thing on your IMDb. I just clicked the Wikipedia page. I don't know. All I see is the logo, and it says American comedy television series, but the logo makes it look like it's like a 3D hamster like show. What is this?
Oh, it's just another Nickelodeon sitcom. So there was a show called Henry Danger. I always confuse it with Harvey Danger, who's saying that not sick, but I'm not well.
Yeah.
So one of them is Harvey Danger, and one of them is Henry Danger. I believe the Nickelodeon show is Henry Danger. Danger Force was a spin-off of that, and I got to play a villain in one episode of that. I also got to do one episode of another Nickelodeon show called Game Shakers. So, Nickelodeon, they're so awesome for kind of bringing me back and letting me guest star here and there on Nick shows. But more exciting than both of those shows was, like I said before, remember I did the fast forward? I did the...
Yeah.
Well, now we're there. We've walked through it. Now we're here, and I believe it's 2019, the end of 2019, before the world ended. The reboot of the reboot, all that came back. And I remember my phone rang off the hook when that day was announced. It was announced that Keenan and Kel were teaming up to produce or executive produce a new reboot of all that starting in, I believe, 2018. Dude, the number of people that called me, like, you would have thought I had cancer or something. Like, people were just reaching out on all platforms. Any way you could reach me, people were reaching out. Goodness gracious, this is the most anyone's cared about me in years and years. But it was nice. It was also like, yes, I heard. Also, how are you? So then they brought all that back for a new reboot, brand new cast of kids. And they had a lot of the original cast members popping on here and there. They had Josh Server coming on. I can't remember if Lori Beth came on. I think Lori Beth came on. Danny Tamborelli, like Keenan and Kel, of course, like all these original cast members from the first season of all that were coming back for the reboot. And of course, I saw it and like my heart kind of broke when I first heard about it, just because like I had this feeling that I wasn't going to be involved. And that kind of hurt a little bit because it felt like a very nice bow. Season 10 felt like we packaged up the show in a nice present and we put a bow on the top and then we put it on a shelf and we were always able to look at it like that was all that and I was a part of it and I was there for the last season. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So then when they unpackaged it, when they took the gift off the all that present off the shelf and then they ripped it open, I'm like, okay, well, let's be careful here. This is my childhood you're talking about. Let's tread lightly. We care about this show. We care about the integrity. So I don't know. My heart sunk a little bit because I'm like, I think we're going to relaunch the show and I don't think I'm going to have anything to do with it because I was one of many cast members throughout the years on this show. And I don't think Nickelodeon's going to give me a call and be like, hey, we want you to come back and be part of it. I just didn't think that was going to happen. I kind of watched it through the months and I was super supportive and I was retweeting it and I was, kind of a little bit befriending like the new cast members on social media, but I didn't really know them. I just kind of watching from afar, watching from afar. And then Michael Johnston, he was the guy who did my makeup on my seasons of all 4 seasons. And he's been a makeup artist for Nickelodeon for years and years and years and years. Dude has Emmys. Like, this guy's amazing. They were in a writer's room for the reboot of the reboot for all that. And they had a character that was like a mom who was like, erratic, over the top, whatever, crazy. And Michael Johnson told them, hey, you guys need to call Least Foils for this. And son of a bee, they did. They called me up and they're like, hey, we want you to come guest star on the brand new All That. And I'm like, yeah. Just cried for 3 hours and then got back to him and said, yes, I'll be there. So I drove out to LA, not really knowing what to expect because they filmed it in a new place. I got to film on the legendary Nick on Sunset, which is now apartment complexes. Makes me so sad. That dude, that building was legendary. It was like a piece of history. The Earl Carroll Theater. Now it's gone. So it was a new building. I didn't know. I wasn't walking onto the set of All That as like, I own the joint like I used to, I used to be able to just strut on set, say hi to everybody by name. Everybody knew me, grab my stuff from craft service, go to my dressing room, prepare for my sketch, walk on set. That was like my domain.
Yeah.
So I was a little nervous when I stepped on set. Gosh, not only was everyone so respectful and welcoming, there were so many people who still worked on the show who worked on my show.
Wow,
so
that's
I was saying,
awesome.
hey, again, Michael Johnston was doing my makeup like he did when I was 13 years old. Beth Carell was still working on the show. Like all of these people, like suddenly it felt like home again. I was looking around the set. There were All That logos. There was the sets set up. It's just, I was saying hi to my friends. The new cast of kids, gosh, they were so nice and respectful and sweet. And they were asking me questions about, Grandma, tell us stories of the old days, tell us about your time. Gosh, they were so sweet. And they wanted to talk to me about my old seasons. It wasn't like, I thought for sure I was going to walk on to like these child stars who just like didn't give a crap about me. And, they're stars and I'm a has-been and whatever. I thought for sure that's what it was going to be. Because I'm a pessimist with anxiety, and that's how we live life. Just couldn't have been more opposite. Everybody was so sweet. I was the redhead. I was like the little freckle-faced redhead on my seasons of All That, and there's a new girl on the new seasons. Her name is Reese, and she's like the new redhead. So like we bonded over like we're the redheads. Also, and Danny Tamborelli, but also like we're the girl redheads. And then I became great friends with her and her mom and her family, and I still talk to them all the time. It was actually, I don't know how big of an All That fan like you or anybody listening is, but there was another guy who was on seasons, I believe 5 and 6, maybe 4, 5, and 6. His name was Mark Saul, and he had some amazing characters. Gosh, he was so funny. And he also got to guest star on my same episode. So not only was I getting to like be part of the new reboot, I also got to do it with Mark, who was experiencing the same thing that I was from his seasons. And not only did we both do, a sketch and have an amazing time on the one episode we did, at the end of filming that week, they both asked us back the next week. So I got to get back in the car and drive from Vegas back to LA the week after to do another sketch with them. So then suddenly I'm like a recurring character on All That again. And it was such a dream come true. And everything was amazing. And then 2020 hit, and then the world ended, and then the show had to cancel because everything got canceled, and that was the end of that. But I'm thankful that it happened before that.
So the show never came out?
No, the show did come out. It was on for 2 years. And then, but no more than that. So I think it would have been fine. I think that the war would have been ended for now, and peace would have been restored for those who sacrificed themselves for the victory will never return. Sorry. Thought I'd read that for the people at home. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know how much longer the reboot of the reboot would have gone on had COVID not hit, but I'm just so thankful that I got to do 2 episodes. Literally was after my second episode that everything shut down. It was our second episode where everyone was starting to be like, hey, have you heard about this virus that everyone's like talking about? I don't know what that's all about. Like that was the buzz on set. Be like, have you heard about this? And
wow,
then the
so
next,
it was that early on that it happened.
Yeah, it was just right. I mean, I think I was even on set when someone was like, have you heard about this virus? I'm like, no, what virus? And then, like, I think that's where I learned about it, was on set of the new All That. But no, I mean, like, how cool is that? Like, I got to, not only did I get to have my own time on All That for 4 seasons, I got to work with all of the original cast members for the season 10 finale. So I got to be there for the big, like, you know, the big closing ceremonies of All That for season 10. I then got to come back years and years later for the new reboot, meet the new kids, see all my old, you know, crewmates, and gosh, like what a cool ending to that saga until they bring it back again, which maybe they just will keep doing that. All That will never end. It will pop up every couple years. And yeah, that is such is life.
Lisa, this has been so amazing. I'm so happy that you agreed to do this. Thank you for joining me for the last hour and 20 minutes.
Dude, it's flown by. I'm so happy you asked me to do this. I'm just happy I get to chat with you, man. This is so awesome.
Well, I'm definitely going to be coming to Vegas literally in a couple of weeks. So I will text you when I'm around. Would love to catch up. I'll shoot the podcast, whatever you want to do. I'm so down. And it'd be fun. It'd be fun to see you and Sean and the kids. That's weird to say because last time I saw you were so far away from having kids, and now you've got 2 kids, and that's amazing.
Dude, it's insane. You got to meet. So Chloe is my daughter, and then I have a son named Calvin, and he was literally named after Calvin and Hobbes. And he has a Hobbes that he carries around, and he is the most Calvin. He's the most Calvin from. It's like it's life imitating art, straight up. You're gonna love it. But yes, please let me know when you're in Vegas. You have to be on Temperamental. You have to be on my podcast. It's gonna be amazing. I just cannot wait to see you.
I will be there. I cannot wait to see you. Lisa Foiles, everyone, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign out here?
No, I just say that the 2 things. Look up Von Boldt on Spotify. We have a new song called The Spider Queen that just released, and we're going to have an album coming out in October. Perfect for Halloween. We are a horror movie Halloween metal band. I love our music. I hope you do too. Look up Von Boldt on Spotify, and also check out my podcast, Temperamental, on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. This has been so awesome. Thank you so much again for having me.
Of course, we'll have the link to your book, your podcast, and your band in the description box below for this video.
Love it.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it for another weird episode title of a show called How Famous is Jirard, which is very weird. That's been Lisa Foiles. We'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.